All right, it seems like everyone's had a chance to join us. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lele Finau-Sturkey. I'm with the program in Exploratory Studies, and I'm going to turn things over to Mary Krause, our Vice Provost and Associate Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education here at CU Boulder to get things started.
So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this virtual town hall. As Lele said, my name is Mary Krause. I'm from the Office of Undergraduate Education, and that serves as the campus home for Exploratory Studies. I'm also joined by Shelley Bacon, Director of the program, and several other panelists to be introduced shortly. Because you submitted over 200 questions, we will be brief in our overview of the fall 2020 plans for the program in Exploratory Studies. And then we're going to go and spend most of this session addressing your questions. So what does COVID ready mean for our students? For your students? It includes students completing a pre-arrival COVID-19 training and committing to following CU Boulder and public health guidelines, including restrictions on large gatherings. For in-person courses, we will practice physical distancing in the classrooms. Masks will be required. Classrooms will be aggressively cleaned between classes, and the passing time between classes is being made longer to avoid crowding during class changes. Students will also be able to access a full range of health and wellness services and additional resources for COVID-19 testing and notifications if that need arises. You can see at the bottom of the slide, there are 4 additional highlights for PES, and those will be described in the next 4 slides.
Hi, everyone. This is Shelley Bacon, Associate Vice Provost for Advising and Exploratory Studies. And as Mary mentioned, I oversee this program. We're excited to have you here learning with us today. So you've been hearing a lot about first-year cohorts. And I would say in addition to the health and safety goals that underlie these cohorts, in exploratory studies, this is really our way of creating a smaller sense of community for students based on having a portion of their overall class schedule with other students that they're living with or sharing similar interests with. We did get a lot of questions about first-year cohorting submitted in advance, so we'll spend plenty of time talking about this today. But let me just give you a few highlights. Students will have an in-person experience, so that means in-person classes. Whether students are living on campus or off, we have been pre-enrolling everyone so we can provide that in-person foundation to their schedule. And we are relying on the answers that students provided on our academic interest survey that we sent in late June to help us identify those courses that best align with their current academic interests. Just so you know, we're also focusing on courses that meet our general education, or you'll hear it called Gen Ed requirements, and courses that tend to be well liked by first-year students. So by pre-enrolling, we're able to prioritize our incoming students and ensure that they get some in-person classroom experiences. And hopefully we are establishing a good infrastructure that's going to be conducive to creating study groups and overall community building. One important point, the classes that students are starting to see on their schedules, that's just a starting point. During the enrollment windows over the next few weeks, students will fill out their schedule with 2 or 3 additional courses of their choosing. So more to come on first-year cohorts in our Q&A session, but that is a first overview for you.
So a second thing that's going to be very important this coming year is that all incoming first-year students, PES students included, will take a success seminar which is designed to support them as they make that transition from high school to college, which is a very different educational experience. There will be an online component to CU 101. That's what we refer to as asynchronous. That means that it's online, but it's available to students at any time of the day, and they can access it as needed. Students will also be enrolled in a recitation where there'll be approximately 20 students who will meet together with their instructor, but again, in an online setting, in this case, a Zoom setting. You can see the key topics at the bottom of this slide that will be covered in this CU 101 or Student Success course. I think, as you can see, many of these are important to making that transition to higher education, including mental health, student involvement and engagement. And right now, there is significant national interest in having something to do with anti-racism.
So let me just give a brief mention to how this plays out for us, this CU 101 course in Exploratory Studies. This is a course that we call FYXP, which stands for First Year Exploration, and you'll see that we offer several courses under that prefix. Lele will be talking about a couple of other of our FYXP courses. But these small recitation sessions that we're going to be offering as part of this FYXP 1500 course, we're thinking of these as an advisory group or a sort of a homeroom, if you will. This course is really meant to be the first half of the semester. So through these recitation sections, this is an opportunity not only to discuss content that you're seeing on the slide, but also an opportunity to check in, hear how things are going. We want to provide a supportive environment, a way for students to get help if they need it in the first 8 weeks. So we're basically structuring that support system in for the first portion of the semester as a way to make sure everyone's getting off to a good start.
All right, so I'm going to talk about some additional courses that are available to students in the program in Exploratory Studies for this fall semester. So the first two that we've got here are our academic exploration and critical decision-making seminars. We have two flavors of these, FYXP 1000 for our incoming first-year students, as well as FYXP 3000 for our new transfer students. Both of these courses are taught by academic advisors within the UEAC, or University Exploration and Advising Center, within the program in Exploratory Studies. So these courses are really great because they're going to give you a chance to build a wonderful advising connection with an advisor in the UEAC, and then really get a good look at all of the wonderful majors, minors, certificates, educational and extracurricular opportunities at CU Boulder, and help figure out what's a really good path that works best for you, and how can we help get you there based on your strengths and your values and the things that you're interested in. Another course that's available to students in the program in Exploratory Studies for this fall is FYXP 1100, our academic success seminar taught by academic coaches within the UEAC. So our academic coaches will work with you in this course on what are the skills that you need to do great here at CU for your first semester and the rest of your academic career. Again, you're going to work on identifying some of your strengths, getting to know other students, and kind of working on those skills around time management, goal setting, and a whole lot more. So both of these are great courses that students can sign up for during their enrollment window. Some other supports that we have available in the program in Exploratory Studies that are new this semester are our I Wish I Had Known Zoom sessions that are going to be led by our peer mentors. So our peer mentors here in the program in Exploratory Studies are current and former PES students who came in and navigated their first year and want to share with all of our students kind of their tips and tricks for success. So they're going to be covering some really great session topics on things like belonging, academics, finding a job, balancing a job with your classes, where do they like to go to sort of study, what are sort of classes that they've enjoyed. So really the perspective of getting to connect with a current CU student who's been in the program in Exploratory Studies and wants to help you navigate your first year and beyond here on campus. Also helping to support you throughout your time in Exploratory Studies is our advising and coaching staff. So all of you have advisors and we have academic coaches who are always available during individual appointments, drop-in hours, and that's not changing this fall with the situation due to COVID. We're gonna be available and accessible, and we're here for you and look forward to getting to know you better throughout your fall semester. All students in the program in Exploratory Studies are required at a minimum to receive advising at least once per semester, but we would love to see you more than that. We want to get to know you, build those connections, and really help you navigate your first semester here. For the fall 2020 semester, our advising and coaching is going to be available on a remote basis, and that's because we find that that's going to give us a really good chance at improved communication versus in person with the mass. And when we do screen sharing, like we're doing during this webinar, we can go through with you and help you register and look at what's going on in your shopping cart and really dig in on your computer with you very efficiently through Zoom. And it also helps us maintain campus safety standards, including some of these distance requirements. Okay, so we've kind of done a brief overview of sort of what we here in PES have to offer for the fall semester. So now we're going to kick things off to getting at some of those 230 some questions that we're so excited you've submitted prior to everything. We'll be joined today with our town hall panelists that you see listed here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask the panelists to share their video as well, and we'll get started with some questions. Okay, wonderful. So I think let's start things off. There are a ton of questions that came in from housing that were housing related. So Laura, I would love it if you could kick us off with just a little bit setting the stage for housing for the fall semester.
Absolutely. Laura Arroyo, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Director for Housing Administration here at CU Boulder. And I'm so excited for all of you to come to CU and join our family. My role with Housing Administration it's good for me to be on this call because I can help answer housing questions. I can help answer some maybe of our residents' life questions about what it will feel like and be like for you to live in the residence hall. And then also we have a number of folks across campus, but I can also jump in and support for what the student experience might look like for you as well. Hopefully everyone has read the roadmap to fall 2020 at this point, which really indicated a lot of changes, important changes that we're making for the fall in regards to COVID-19 to create a healthier and safer campus. Many of those really helped us connect the CU experience within the residence halls to the CU experience within the classroom. And that's a really exciting change that I think that we have been poised to do at CU for a really long time. So it's, I think, pretty intentional that we're making these changes right now, but it's always been something that I think that the academic side of the house and student affairs and housing has thought of. How can we work better, more closely to support our students? So within the roadmap to fall 2020, there's a lot around cohorting. You've heard about some of that already from some of the folks on this call, but I know also there's questions about what that means for the residence hall experience. So that's a pretty common question. So I'm just going to start with that question because I know that that's a good place to start. So what we've really tried to do through the roadmap to fall 2020, as well as working with our faculty colleagues, is think about where students live and how we can connect that student experience in the residence hall to the college. So for PES, all of our program for exploratory studies, what we've done is house all of our students together within the residence hall. And that's really exciting. It also changes maybe the way that you had thought about housing before. But I think it's an important intentional change that will allow you to be with like students that are within your college that are also exploring who and what they want to be at CU. So I'm going to pause there because I know there's lots of questions. So that way we can open up and I can be more specific about the questions that you might have.
Great, thank you so much, Laura. I think building off of that, a question that kept coming up a lot is around a subject near and dear to my heart, which is eating. So what are the dining halls? And when we think about sort of kind of ways to meet other students, what are some of the spaces like dining halls going to look like for this fall semester?
So I'm really excited about the way that we're thinking about dining. Certainly it's different than ever we have done before. Also, if you are looking behind me in my screen, you're seeing that my dog walker just showed up. So this is such a life of living and working at home remotely as we're trying to navigate COVID-19. So dining is going to look at, we're going to look at dining very differently than we have ever in the past. And that is really to make sure that we're thinking about your safety. Whenever possible, we're thinking about grab and go options. And what that would mean is that we're limiting the students that would be sitting and eating together within the residence hall or within the dining facilities. And the reason why that matters is because we know that within indoor spaces, whenever we can support and kind of contain and make sure that we're minimizing the interaction within the actual dining experience, it's a safety measure for COVID. But what that also means is that we're leaning into our outdoor space. So you're going to see a number of tents across campus outside of our dining facilities. And that's because what we know with COVID is that it's much safer to be sitting and eating outside than it would be inside. And luckily, Colorado is absolutely beautiful, especially during the early fall semester. So we're going to be utilizing that as an opportunity for us moving forward. Our dining options are not going to change. We have great dining options at CU. Many of you have probably heard that. It might be one of the reasons that initially you are drawn to CU outside of the academic experience. Dining is really, really important and popular. Those changes that we're making are for your safety, but they're not going to impact the way that we're cooking our food or the quality of our food or the options. It really just means we're changing the way we provide the food options.
That's great. One other housing thing, and then we'll kind of get to some of our other panelists. A lot of questions around the move-in process and what that's going to look like. Can parents come with their student for move-in? You know, what is that going to look like? And especially related to testing for COVID. How quickly in advance do they need to get the test and what that looks like?
Such an important question. For some of you on this call, you may have received information about a sign-up time for your move-in. And for others of you on this call, you may be waiting for that information. So depending on which phase you are in housing, so depending on when you completed your housing application is when that information is being disseminated. So for anyone in phase 3, and that may not mean much for some of you on this call, but families and parents definitely know what I mean by phase 3. For any of the phase 3 students, you're going to be receiving your building assignment this Friday. So within that letter, there's going to be an opportunity for you to sign up for a move-in time. The reason that we're asking students to sign up for move-in times this year is so that we can really be thoughtful about how many students and families that we have on campus at any given moment. And that is for social distancing purposes, it's for your safety. The great news is that means you're signing up for a time, and that is actually your time that you will be supported when you come to the CU campus to move in. Now, the other thing that we're asking, in many other years, you might have decided to bring kind of a caravan of all of your family and all your friends with you to move in. And what we're really asking is that you choose 2 people to bring with you. And that is really to make sure that we're supporting social distancing on campus. We're a big campus, but we don't want to overwhelm the number of students and families that we have on campus. So you'll be able to bring 2 people with you. And then what we're asking is that only 1 person be with you when you enter the residence hall. So that means that for maybe the moms and dads or the grandmothers and the grandfathers that are dropping their students off, you'll just need to coordinate that as a family so that you both get that, I think, important experience of seeing your student and your family member move in.
Great, that's wonderful. And one
COVID.
follow-up around COVID, yes.
Yes, COVID, I'm so sorry.
No, lots of testing questions around if you're coming from out of state. How does all of that work?
So within the email that we've sent out to our phase 1 and phase 2 students, and then for phase 3, you'll receive this on Friday. There's more information about testing. So what we're asking is that any student that can get tested within 5 days of their arrival time, do so and bring their testing results to show they're negative for COVID-19. And that's important so that we can ensure safety of all of our students that are moving into the residence hall. If you're unable to do that due to your travel plans or maybe accessibility, sometimes depending on where you live, you may not have access to those tests. We will be providing tests as well for students when they arrive.
That's great, thank you. Okay, a question came in around the cohort classes. So students wanting to know, I see that I've been in a cohort, put in some cohort classes, can I change them? Shelley, would you want to take a shot at answering this question for us?
Yes, no problem. So this is a common question that we're hearing. Students will have access to make changes to their schedule during the enrollment windows, but we would really like them to connect with an advisor first before dropping or adjusting the courses that we have pre-enrolled. The reason I say that is that there are several good reasons not to drop these courses, including we know that in-person courses are going to be at a premium, and so we've really taken a lot of time and care to prioritize our incoming first-year students for some of these in-person experiences. And because they are going to be at a premium, we know that there will be lots of popularity around snagging up any courses that a student drops. An advisor really can work with students on other ways to kind of have a safety net around making schedule adjustments that won't inadvertently leave someone without an in-person experience because they've dropped it thinking, oh, I don't like the time, or this schedule or this subject seems like something I might not be interested in. I think you're seeing a lot of different titles out there on your schedules because we've been working with a whole lot of courses in trying to give everyone a couple to start with as a foundation. And there are probably some titles out there that you're thinking, I'm not really sure this is what I would have chosen. But just know that these are courses that are well liked by first-year students, courses we've seen students in a lot. And we have paid attention to your interest that you've indicated to us in choosing this. A couple of popular areas for our students are business and engineering. And in both of those cases, we have pre-enrolled specific prerequisite courses. So that's another reason that we want to have a conversation with you before you do any sort of schedule adjustment. But there will be plenty of opportunity for choice in this process. Even if you leave your courses intact, which we hope will be the case for the most part, you will have the opportunity to add 2 or 3 additional courses depending on what we've pre-enrolled you in, and those will be completely up to you. We do expect that there will still be some in-person courses out there that you can search for to add additional in-person to your schedule, or there's plenty of hybrid or remote or online options that you'll be choosing from as well, and definitely personalized to whatever your interests are as you go through that process. So bottom line, work with your advisor closely as you go into your enrollment windows.
So if I can add one thing to that, to Shelley's comment, the other thing I think is that PES has placed their students very carefully into academic groups for these in-person courses. And one of the advantages to taking an in-person course with those students with whom you're living is that you can work on projects, you can work on homework assignments. So it's not just that you have the class experience together, you have the outside of the classroom, but in the residence hall that you can share with your cohort group. And so I think that's another part that's so important for the educational part. You don't just learn from your faculty, you learn from the students with whom you are studying together, working on projects together.
Great. A related kind of question came up around just confusion between in-person, remote, sort of online classes. If a student's in an online class, can they go somewhere to study for that class or watch the lecture for that class while they're on campus this fall?
Yes, I can take this, and maybe Laura can chime in as well from a housing perspective. But for those online or remote classes, and maybe we can take a step back and explain that online tends to mean that there's this asynchronous component that students can sort of do it at their own pace. Remote, there is a specific scheduled time and day, and you're just going through class via Zoom like this, or Canvas, or some other online tool, but you're doing it together as a class, versus the various hybrid versions where you might have a little bit of multiple components, including in-person, which is more of the traditional live and in-person. But for those students who are doing something remotely or purely online, we don't have an expectation that they stay only in their residence hall and do everything from that main room. There will be some other spaces that are being created across campus that are conducive to social distancing and with Wi-Fi capacity. And so students will be able to move around campus. You know, everyone's going to be wearing a mask, everyone's going to be social distancing. So there's more option for that. And I don't know, Laura, if you have any other thoughts on the actual study spaces of that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so any of our high touch surfaces, we're certainly providing extra cleaning for, and that's going to be really important for COVID-19 safety. The other thing that I would say is that there's going to be a number of spaces that will be opened up across campus that are outside as well, which is something that students actually really love and have wanted, I think, forever, is to have your classroom outside of the residence, or outside of the residence hall, outside of the classroom, be outside in the Colorado environment. And you could actually do that. If you have Wi-Fi access, which we provide that across campus. So that's, I think, something that I don't know that all students have considered, but it's changing the way that we think about our classes.
That's great. A question came in for Bree around new student family programs. What sorts of welcome activities are taking place during move-in, or are we just dropping our kids off and leaving?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Bree. I'm a program coordinator in New Student and Family Programs. And to speak a little bit about what activities we will have going on for students during Fall Welcome, and then also families, I'll talk a little bit about students first. So on our website, if you Google CU Boulder Fall Welcome or CU Boulder New Student and Family Programs, we're the orientation office, and our journey leaders are students who are going to be offering different ways for you to stay connected after that drop-off time. So once you move in, we will have different meetups as well as things that you can explore around campus. And the details of what that looks like is still being developed, as we are going to be keeping in mind the safety aspects as well as the social distancing. So again, there will be some hybrid options, and then a lot of ways for students to connect remotely as well. So you'll be able to find the full Fall Welcome schedule on our website in later August. And then for our families, after you drop off your students on move-in day, we will have some Buff Family Welcome tents in each of the different residential neighborhoods. So if you are in town and around campus, these are just designed for families to stop by, maybe pick up some swag items from our table, and then also just say hello. Not designed for long periods of time, but more just a grab and go Buff family stop for any families who are maybe looking to see a friendly face from new student and family programs behind a mask, of course, but that's what families can look for as well. And then we will be continuing our Buff family coffee hours and webinars for families throughout the fall semester. So if you're looking for more ways to stay connected, we'll have that list and lineup of ways for families to stay connected at those tents.
Great. Lots of, when we have questions, there's a question came through wondering, are we going to get a mask? Are we providing our own masks? And there's lots of sort of safety questions. And how are students, and Bree, this might be a good question for you, how are students supposed to know all of the different regulations and safety protocols before they step foot on the campus?
Yes, absolutely. So tomorrow there is a COVID-19 Ready course that will be launched, and all of the students will be able to see this in their Canvas. So similar to how they completed the online experience, which was the online orientation through our office, they will be able to go to Canvas, and under courses, tomorrow that will be launched. And so they'll be able to see the tile that is for that course. So that course will walk them through these new updates and guidelines around maintaining social distancing and physical distancing, and what are our expectations going to be around campus with the new changes also to the student code of conduct to help us educate students about these new policies and protocols. So that course will need to be completed by August 1st. And so students can start to look for that once it launches tomorrow. I know we'll be sending email communication to remind students. So again, this is our office's friendly reminder that students, make sure you're checking your colorado.edu email daily as often as you can, because that's where we're going to be emailing all of these important updates. And families, encourage your students to be checking that. And if you do need help, our students in our office, the journey leaders, which are kind of like a go-to orientation leader for you all, we have live chat, texting, and can even set up appointments if you're lost and you're just confused and not sure where to find this, please give our office a call. We are available 8 to 5. So let us know if you do need help finding that course.
Thanks, Bree. Questions coming in about the housing wait list. So if a student is on the housing wait list, what does that mean? What should they do? And what kinds of resources are available for them?
That's a great question. So currently we are housing our phase 1, 2, and 3 students. So if you're in one of those phases, we are providing housing. Part of the safety measures that we need to take for the fall for COVID-19 is to decrease housing density across all of our residence halls. So that means that within the housing portfolio, generally I have a certain number of spaces that I can provide to students, but we have to decrease that number to make sure that we have better space for social distancing purposes within the residence hall environment. That meant that we needed to move to the wait list quite a bit earlier than we usually would. And that has certainly been a challenge, I think, for many of our CU families that we're really hoping to have on-campus housing. If we have space available, we will certainly invite any of those students on the wait list to come forward. And the wait list is in a priority number based on when people were assigned on their application. What I will say is that with the expectations for the fall, I think it's really important that students really pursue off-campus housing at this point. I think that's important for your decision making, for you to feel solidified about your fall semester, because we're really getting pretty close to the start of the fall. So I would say, and I would really strongly suggest that if you have questions about where you are as a priority on the wait list, as well as what you need to do for off-campus housing, that you contact the occupancy management office, or you contact the off-campus housing and neighborhood relations, both of which I work with. So if nothing else, you now know my name. And so you can reach out to me and I can point you in the right direction.
Great, and kind of related to that, what about commuter students who are coming in to campus and aren't living in the residence halls? What is their first year like? I don't know if, Bree, we'll start with you, and then I think we should probably also talk courses a little bit for those students too. But Bree, do you want to kind of kick off answering that question for commuter students?
Yeah, so some of those meetups that I mentioned that our office will be hosting, we will have some commuter specific that we're partnering with the office Laura mentioned, off-campus housing and neighborhood relations. So they can stay posted to our website for more information, and then also connect with off-campus housing, neighborhood relations, as well as some commuter orientation sessions that we'll be hosting.
I can also share a little bit about the off-campus experience. So for our students that are living off campus, whether they be a commuter or whether they could be living at home, they could be living within the Boulder community, all of those first year students, we're working with the off-campus housing and neighborhood relations office to make connections, what we call our commuter cohorts. And these are students that are living in a variety of different places, but we're making sure that they have connections through their academic colleges to ensure that they're meeting students. And that's important because even if you're on campus, there's a sense of alienation that I think we've all felt through COVID-19, and we're really trying to make sure that as much as possible, we're providing experiences where students meet each other.
I can also chime in on the cohorting exercise with courses. We have known through this process who our commuter students are, and so we have cohorted them together so that they will be in a class or two with other students who are commuting, really feeling like that was an important community building effort so that students who are in similar circumstances can see I'm not alone, can also, going back to Mary's point, have study groups that they could manage in any way that they feel like they need to remotely because they're all coming from potentially different areas to that classroom space. And the CU 101 course, our FYXP 1500, we are also cohorting commuter students together in that course. So that's an opportunity to, in that, hey, check in, how's everyone doing? Do you need anything? We'll be able to be working with, again, students who are maybe experiencing similar things and having issues that are coming up specific to that commuter population.
Great. And with the cohorts and just the classes, a couple of questions folks have around what proportion of classes are we talking about for in-person versus some sort of online kind of experience? Are all of the cohort classes only in person? Are all of the other courses only online? Can you help folks understand the combination of class formats that are going to be offered?
Sure, it definitely will be a combination. For the most part, the courses that we have pre-enrolled have an in-person component to them. One common structure for a course for us, for an incoming first-year student, would typically be a really large lecture, maybe 400 students in a big lecture hall. Clearly, that norm is changing for us this fall. And then we have smaller groups that we call recitations that are connected to that larger lecture. And that's a way for those 400 students to split off into groups of 20 or so for discussion time and project time. And those are all scheduled into the students' class schedule. So the recitations are a required component. It's part of this larger class experience. But in our fall 2020 reality, those large lectures are more of what you're seeing remote and online because we can't put 400 students into that classroom anymore with social distancing guidelines in place. What you are seeing that's in person though is that recitation. And so when I say hybrid, it could be that some component of this overall course is in person and some component of it is more of a remote learning environment, but that you are having some in-person exposure to other students in that class, to your teaching assistant, your instructor, your faculty member in that way. So some courses themselves are hybrid. Also, the overall structure is going to be a bit of a mix of in-person and remote or online options for you. Like I've been saying, with the first year cohorting exercise, there are in-person experiences there. We do expect that there will still be in-person options available that are appropriate for new first year, first semester students and incoming transfer students. So when you are in your enrollment window, you'll be able to search by instructional mode is what we call it. So you'll be able to search for, show me the in-person options that still have space. So you may be able to add additional in-person opportunities. We do know that there will be additional online and remote opportunities that you will add to your schedule as well. So when all is said and done, it's a little hard to answer that what percentage question, but if you consider students typically will have 5 courses in their first semester, I would say, you know, two or three will have an in-person component depending on what their needs are. There are some of our courses that we have pre-enrolled that may not have an in-person component, and we went ahead and pre-enrolled anyway because it's a specific prerequisite requirement based on the survey results that we got from students saying, I know I need to stay on track to try to apply to engineering, or I know I need to stay on track to try to apply to the lead school of business. In that case, we prioritized the specific course need. And if there was not an in-person version of that, we went ahead and gave it to you anyway, because we want you to have it.
Great. Question I saw that I'm going to expand their question. The question was, can I go to the rec center this fall? And I think expanding out, can they go to the library? Can they do extracurriculars? What is sort of life outside a classroom and life outside of a residence hall going to look like on campus this fall?
I'm happy to take that. So we are working across the gamut to think about how we consider safety in each of those spaces. And so that could look a little bit different depending on the space and the way that the environment and the structure of the building is. For a space like the rec center, we'll be limiting the number of people that can be in the center at any given time. So think about it almost like a sign-up time that you could go to sign up to work out. That's the way that they're considering it, because they just need to make sure in a space where people will be sweating, people will be working out, that they're very thoughtful of how many folks can be in that space at any given moment. In a space like the library, I would imagine that they're thinking about what are the smaller rooms that aren't good for social distancing purposes, right? And then what are the spaces where people could be sitting, and maybe they are dividing out, if there's a computer here in a space and a computer here, maybe they need to separate it out so that there's 6 feet distance. So each of those are kind of looked at a little bit differently just based on the environment and the structure of the space. What I will say is that as many spaces as we can hold for students, we're doing so. And that's really important, because oftentimes we would have meeting space. Maybe we're all in meetings for different, meetings for work. That's going to likely change. So it means that some of the spaces that we would have been using for meeting space is actually being utilized for student space now.
Good, because that's a couple of questions came in about, this is great, we'll get to eat outside and do things outside, but what about if it snows? So that's good to know that it's not just limited to space outside, that there are other just reimagining spaces all over campus, inside and outside, regardless of what Colorado fall looks like. A question coming through, so, we're talking about the start of the semester, but then what about after Thanksgiving break? What does that look like? And what kinds of supports are going to be available to students? And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about sort of the campus plans for after spring break or fall break with regard to classes, but then also questions around, well, can they stay in the residence halls? Can they come back? So I don't know if Mary or Shelley, if you want to talk about sort of broader campus plans for post-fall break, and then we could talk more specifically about some housing implications for that.
So I could start by just pointing out that to begin with, the semester will be further along than it normally is when students leave for fall break. So the thing to remember is fall break doesn't start until Thanksgiving Day itself. So there's nearly a full week of classes that happens before students are sent on their way. That means the semester is really pretty much close to complete before the students do have the semester ended by Thanksgiving break.
I can talk a little bit about the residence hall. So we'll certainly be working with students to determine who cannot leave. Maybe it's safer for a student to stay on campus over the entirety of break because returning home would be an unsafe decision. We're going to be providing housing on a first come, first served basis for students that are in that kind of situation. And we'll be working with students who can't move out immediately and maybe need an extra day to solidify their travel plans. So we will be working with that as well. So I just want to clarify that if you are a student that maybe returning home isn't an option for you, or returning back to where you had lived before isn't an option, we'll be working with each of you to provide housing.
And for housing, if a student, if a student comes down with COVID, or this question is, what does a student do if their roommate decides to disregard everything and comes down with COVID? What does quarantine look like in a residence hall?
Yep, great question. So we have housing set aside and available. We have buildings set aside for quarantine as well as self-isolation. And that's important because those two things are a little bit different. For the student that maybe feels like they might have come in contact with COVID, but don't yet know if they have it, that's a different group than maybe a student who is tested positive. And so we have housing set aside for both of those types of students, as well as, we're decreasing density in all of our residence halls. So what you would do if you were a student that was kind of in that situation, you would want to talk with Residence Life or go to Wardenburg, our health center, to talk with a medical professional about what you need to do for your own safety, as well as if there's a student that you're concerned about, that would be important for us to know as well. If you have a roommate that maybe isn't respecting your needs and your health and safety needs, and maybe you're concerned about that, definitely talk with your Residence Life staff to let them know of that concern, because we have a lot of rules and regulations and policies that we're expecting all of our students to follow. And we certainly want to work from an educational place to help our students understand why that's important, but we also need to make sure that our campus is safe.
Thank you. Bree, a question for you. Is Parents Weekend happening this fall, or anything for parents this fall?
So more information to come about what Family Weekend 2020 will look like. We are hoping to be able to make an announcement in the next couple of weeks for what our October weekend will have in store. So the dates were October 15th through the 18th, and more to come on what Family Weekend will look like on our website.
Thank you. Another new student family programs question. So it seems like there's a lot of stuff students need to be doing right now, and how on earth can they keep track of everything that they're being asked to do? Where do they go to find out what they're supposed to be doing and what they've done and what needs to happen?
Yeah, that is a great question. So one of the first places I would start is your Buff portal. So your Buff portal has a little new student welcome card or tile that will show up on your screen with checklist of things that you need to be working on to complete, and will also show you your progress as you work through those things. So definitely be logging into your Buff portal. Make sure that you're working through each item that is outlined on that new student welcome card. And then another place, we also have a checklist available on our website. So again, the New Student and Family Programs website as well. So individual questions too, if you see something that you're lost or needing that extra guidance, please feel free to call or email us so we can help you individually.
Great, thank you. A question around roommates. So confirming when you find out, but also at move-in, if roommates are not moving in together, how do you meet your roommate for the first time? What is that going to look like?
That's a great question. So all of our students will receive their room assignment. So many of our students have received their building assignment. And then for our phase 3 students, they'll receive their building assignment on Friday. Everyone will receive their room assignment with their roommate information on August 3rd. So that gives you a few weeks to start talking more remotely and virtually with your roommate to determine what you want to bring to your space, when they might be arriving, because likely their move-in time will be different than yours. And that's important so that we don't have too many students all moving in at the same time in the same room. So we're thinking about how many students are within the building. We're thinking about how many students are within every single room and across campus as a whole. So it could be that your times are different. But what's I think important is that you do as much pre-planning as you can with your roommate so that you're not bringing over the amount of belongings, which is always something that students do. They overpack and then they realize, oh shoot, I have too many things. What do I do with all these belongings? And that's particularly difficult if you live across, the United States or internationally. That's going to be extra difficult right now because with COVID-19 and for our fall safety, we're really limiting who can come into the residence hall. So try to pre-plan, be smart about that, work with your roommate. And then if for anyone, this is another question that's come up, I requested already a roommate, can I live with that person? So just to kind of clear that up too, because I know that was a question that I think is important for folks. We're still working on any roommate request that we can make happen. And that would have been a mutual roommate request that has already occurred. And that opportunity has already occurred for students. So if you requested a mutual roommate, that roommate would need to be within the same college as you, and in some cases, potentially the same major as you, depending on the way that we cohorted with our colleges. So for the program for Exploratory Studies, for example, you would just need to be in Exploratory Studies and within that same building cohort. And we're trying to work that out right now.
Great. A couple questions around extracurriculars. I don't know if we can answer, but just will clubs be meeting in person? Are those going to be available for students if they want to, like the hiking club or something like that? How will they know if there's something available for them?
I can just start by sharing that the Center for Student Involvement will still be hosting a Be Involved fair. So if your student is looking for ways to stay connected, or you're a student who's wanting to know about the hiking club or some of these cycling clubs I saw in the questions, I would say to know that event will still be hosted in some form of capacity. And so then we'll know more about what those meetups can look like after the Be Involved fair.
Great. Well, we are running out of time here at the end. So first I want to just thank our panelists for joining us and sharing some information. But for all of the students and parents and families who have joined us for this, we have a ton of questions that you've submitted that have come in, a lot of really great questions that you submitted beforehand and also submitted during our webinar today that we were not able to get to. But we are going to be following up with an email with some additional information on resources, where to go to get some of these questions answered. We're going to be pulling some of these lists to try to get you the answers to the questions that you have as we have them for the fall semester. So this is not your only chance to get more information out of us on what's going on as we navigate what this fall is going to look like. Also, there are some very helpful webinars that are going to be coming up for the program in Exploratory Studies. We're having registration webinars. The first one's happening this Friday. We've got some next week and the week after during the enrollment windows. So a lot of these great questions around, wait a minute, how do I tell if a course is online? I thought I'm in an online class and I didn't think I was going to be, how can I get more information on that? The registration webinars are going to be a great place to go. And I think there's some additional webinars. Maybe Bree, you'd mentioned one for housing. Housing is a hot topic right now. So if you want to share a little bit about that one as well.
Yes, of course. So students, make sure you check out those registration ones that Lele mentioned, but families will be hosting some Buff Family housing webinars next week. You'll be getting some information and it'll be live on our website tomorrow about the housing webinars that we're hosting for both on-campus and off-campus families to join in next week. And then our Buff Family webinar series, we have one on Thursday this week that will be recorded and on our website, as well as one in August. So check out our coffee hours and our webinars that new student and family programs are hosting if you're wanting to tune in more.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for the town hall today. Be on the lookout for an email that will be following up with you with additional information and how you can connect with us further. And I look forward to getting to know everyone better this fall. All right, we'll wrap up a bit. Thanks everyone. Take care.